it's really fun. You get to like bounce ideas back and forth to each other. So, collaborating is, definitely a big thing I've been doing a lot lately.
So that's a relatively recent thing for you?
No, I mean, it's always been a thing. Like, I've never really worked a regular job, so I feel like collaborating was my way of working with, being able to coexist with any kind of person. So everything's like a collaboration for me. Like,
how have you managed to last this long without working a regular job at any point? That's impressive.
I don't know, just like we always, like, I never went to college, so I just made music my job. And everything kind of revolved around albums and like doing shoots around the albums. And
very few people out there are really able to, especially early on, make really kind of make a go at it. But it sounds like you've managed to do that somehow. Or is it just sort of like living on your means and living simply until you're actually like, pulling some money in?
I just grew up Filipino. Your parents don't ever kick you out of your house until...
You actually grew up in the Philippines, you moved to the States, and then you moved back as a teenager?
Yeah, so when I was out there as a teenager, I was staying with them. It was around that time, like, I couldn't afford to go to college, so I just just had so much time. I just stayed home, watched all my friends graduate, and kind of just burned my whole life away. And then, I was like, hey, I can record. That's something I do enjoy doing, and it could be something. I didn't know it'd be like a career thing at first, but, I was just like, I'm going to just record, document like everything I'm going through.
Was there a plan to go to college or to save up at any point, or was it just clear that just wasn't even a possibility?
Yeah, no, my parents were really struggling, so it's not like I could ask them to pay for me to go to school. And I was just like, I couldn't get a job. I didn't really know like how to adapt to society. Like, I remember I worked at like, at my friend's store, and I was like a tailor. It's like a custom denim shop. So you have to measure your client's legs. So I would just do like measurements, and then I only worked there for like half a month, man. And I just felt like this isn't how I should spend my time trying to make money. So I was like, I'm going to just try to make money off my art no matter. I mean, it took time.
This working a day job isn't working out, so I'm going to try to make money the hardest way possible.
Yeah, I was filming my friends skating, so I made like skate videos, and, that kind of like started getting me like recognition. I like started doing like graphic design for this guy, the Cobra Snake. He's like a photographer in America. I was trying to do stuff, but like not necessarily go to a place and apply for a job. I wanted to like find creative work. So I was like trying to draw, trying to do things. Like, I freelanced like photography. It was kind of depressing because some shoots I get paid for, some shoots I wouldn't, and that was like discouraging. So I was like, just trying a bunch of things, and I think music was the one that was the best. Like, even when I first started playing like shows at little bars, like that little money, would go to so much of my time.
Money and recognition and building things up they're not a linear process. And I think that's something that like nobody really tells you. And then you have to figure out on your own that there's, it feels like you're having some success, but there's still a lot of setbacks along the way.
Yeah, there's too many. Like, I was even like, I remember I got signed to a label, and then I got dropped. That's kind of like what got me to like get my shit together. And then I got signed by the label that I'm leaving now. I'm on my last album with them. Like, been 5 albums already.
Maybe there's a way in which, I don't want to say a blessing, but there's a way in which getting dropped from your label like ultimately was, if not a benefit, then at least like a motivator for you.
Yeah, it woke me up because I remember like when I got that advance with the first label, I was just like partying and like not really doing anything that made my mom proud. came a long way.
It's hard for, especially with art, it's hard to know if this is really the thing that you should be doing. And again, like as I said, it's obviously a difficult road to go down, you know. And I find that when people have those sorts of setbacks, like specifically getting dropped by a label, then it tends to make them completely reconsider everything.
Yeah, I mean, I was even thinking, like, is music still it? You know, I still stuck to it. Like, that was the make and break point of my life, where it was like, if I give up now, then, you know, all of this will be for nothing. So I just stuck to it. And luckily, you know, this label found me and put out my records for the last years of my life. And I don't know, it's been good. You know, like, I'm grateful for it all. Like, because the timing was like, I was at that age where it was like, you either better get like a day job, or like, you know, you're just going to be like a bum, like at home. So I was like, really like trying to push myself around that time. But yeah, it was worth it.
How old were you at the time?
Shoot, I think I got signed, like the very first time I got signed, I was like 20, around 21.
Were your parents pressuring you too, or was that all internal?
Like Asian stuff too. They're, you know, Asian people want their kids to be like doctors or something. But yeah, I wasn't trying to do anything like that. They just wanted me to go to college and get a job type shit. And I was just like, I knew like the music was there, but I just wasn't there yet. But I knew like if I figured it out in time, I'd prove to them. And eventually I did, but it just, when you're in that moment, it doesn't feel like you ever will.
There's a certain point when your parents are like, well, I mean, he's not becoming a doctor. there's a point, right? I mean, there's a point when those expectations shift, but obviously like they still, it sounds like there was still pressure from them regardless.
Yeah, because I was like doing film stuff, and my dad's like an animator, so I learned how to like do all the film stuff later in life, and was like, why don't you try film school? I even did go to his friend's film school, and I like dropped out like within a few months because it was out there. It was actually before I went to college, like tried to go to college. So it was like it was weird. I went back to the Philippines and I had to go. I was already a sophomore here in America. So I graduated freshman year. I was going to be sophomore or whatever. And then when I moved back, they're like, oh, you have to start high school over again. So like I went to like a local school there for like a semester, and then I quit. And in between that period of time, like my dad like had a friend that owned a film school, and because the guy that he was working for, like he mentored for, like his mentor or whatever, my dad's mentor was a professor there. He was like, why don't you go to this school? And I went there, and it was weird. Like, you know, like they taught you all the basics in film, but then the guy was just always like, watch my films. And his films were about like, girls in bikinis and just like very like common, like guy point of view shit. And I was like, dude, I want to make Enter the Void and have my mind blown. So I was just like, I just like dropped out of that school because I felt like I wasn't gonna see anything like that.
That's sort of like the common refrain, though, in art generally, that you have to know the rules in order to effectively break them.
Yeah, I just saw all that stuff in taking actual mushrooms and actually going out and filming and editing with my friends. But it was weird, you know, like I tried to do school and it just never worked out.
How long did you actually go to film school for?
Half a year.
Did you learn anything useful?
Well, duh. But you know, also
I don't know. There's no duh. I mean, it's entirely possible you didn't. Okay, maybe a better question is, did you learn anything that you still use?
Yeah, just like basic stuff, you know. But now, yeah, I'm so grateful I still went and even tried. Yeah, I couldn't stand my classmates or whatever. They just acted like kids.
Do you feel like you have just sort of do you have issue with structure just generally, like people imposing structure on you?
Yeah, I had a hard time in school generally, so that's why I was like, man, I don't even know if I'll be able to go to college.
I think that's something, and I hear this from a lot of people who go to art school, like that's something you risk is like completely de-romanticizing something. You know, obviously like you started doing it and you went to school for it because you loved it, but I know a lot of people who sort of come out of the other end of the machine just like completely disillusioned with the process.
That's how one of my good friends is. He went to art school, like took up painting and stuff, and now he doesn't even paint. Like he cooks now. I'm like, well, what the hell?
That's creative in a different way, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe they found their true purpose.
You feel that having a dad who was an animator was maybe took some of the pressure off, or at least
It put pressure to succeed as an artist because he was trying to get me in a position where I could succeed as an artist. It's always like a creative thing because he wasn't like no accountant type guy. So everything he like tried to teach me, like Photoshop, editing softwares, animation, is just like all, because he was, I guess, a successful artist. He worked for like 20th Century Fox, came from nothing. So it's cool that he like got to move to America and work for them and Nickelodeon. But yeah, I think with me, he was always like, how can you be like me? I don't know, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I gotta figure it out, dude. Like, fuck. And it was music eventually, but he taught me how to play guitar too.
yeah, I mean it sounds like you couldn't have been like him from the standpoint of working as an animator in a studio, especially a studio like Fox, like that talk about strict structures.
Yeah, he was cool. He was always, always had a lot of friends and stuff. And me, I was just like the awkward kid listening to Slipknot all loud when my dad's friends would come over. Just, I don't know. I like skating a lot though, so that's how I made friends.
You were a social outcast?
It's not like I was quiet, but yeah, I just generally just fit in with like the misfits type kids. Literally, my friends would wear like the misfit shirt and shit. We were trying too hard. Like I was punk before. I used to like literally like have tight ass pants and put patches and studs all over my shit. Just spike my hair. I just wanted to belong. But when I grew up, I got over all that shit. I was just like, I just wanted to fit in somewhere.
Especially in high school, it's really hard to find that group of people. And I think that part of the reason why people gravitate towards certain signifiers, whether it's like music or fashion, it's because you're basically like sending up a flare, you're sending up a flag to let people know, hey, this is where I feel like I fit in.
I fit in with like the scene kids that they called like our wall in San Clemente. I sat in the scene wall or whatever. So, but it wasn't just scene kids like MySpace, it was like, there were like punks there. There were like garage rock dudes that hung out there. So I thought like our wall was cool. And then in front of us was like all the skinheads. And they were just on their Nazi shit.
Oh, those kinds of skinheads. Like,
yeah, no, cause high school in San Clemente, they wouldn't fuck with anyone really, but it was just like, that was the scene. There'd be jocks and skaters and emo guys, and we all just coexisted somehow.
The skinhead thing is surprising. I guess like Southern California, that surprises me a little bit.
Some Orange County shit.
Oh, Orange County. Okay, that's fair enough. So it's a very Republican part of Southern California.
But I just I didn't really care. I grew up in Phoenix, so when I moved to California, I was just like grateful to not be in Arizona, because Arizona was like a lot of like cholos and like just like gangs and crazy shit. So California was like way safer when I Like, when I grew up and realized, I was like, oh damn, there's not a lot of cops here.
I don't have to be afraid all the time.
Yeah.
It's a nice feeling.
Yeah, because Arizona is pretty crazy. Like, I'll walk down the wrong street and someone will rob me, and I'll just be like, okay, I guess I'm getting robbed today.
Was that common for you in high school in Arizona?
I was like younger. It was like in Arizona from 6 to like 13. So all those times I was there, I was just really young. I wasn't trying to be like the environment I was in. I still ended up being a skater instead of like a gangbanger or a tagger. Like, that's just something everyone else was doing, and I was like, not cool,
That's a relief, like moving to California and like suddenly realizing that maybe not exactly like you, but that there are people that are kind of at least like in your orbit.
Yeah, and that culture is here too, but I lived in Orange County, so it was like predominantly white, so it was really felt safer, because like in Arizona it's like anything goes. People get kidnapped, scary shit, just like, okay.
It sounds like you moved around a fair bit growing up.
Yeah, like, I mean, I've seen good parts of Arizona too. But yeah, a lot of the times I wasn't in the nice. But yeah, it was everything in my life felt better when I moved to California, because that's when I started playing in bands. I didn't see stuff like that in Arizona. Like, there was no like creative community, or I didn't really go to a lot of shows either, because I was still young.
I'm from California. I'm from up north, but I basically like stayed, was in the same town growing up. And I just, I'm always curious what impact moving around that much has on people growing up.
Yeah, Northern California, some crazy shit happened up there recently. My friend that was a painter that I told you, his cousin got kidnapped. Northern California is crazy, but beautiful. It's also more like expensive up there too.
You feel like moving around a lot had a profound impact on you?
Yeah, probably on even like my music. Like, my music's so like, I'm always trying to make something from another place. Because I was just always on the move. I just never felt like I got my feet like firmly into the ground, because I wasn't there long enough. So I'd be like, even in Arizona, I'd move from different apartments to eventually like a house. And like all those moves, like, made me lose touch with friends. And I was always like reintroducing myself, going to school, telling them my name. They mispronounce it every time. Moving around's tough, because also all my childhood friends, we all lost touch. We used to call each other all the time, but things change.
For most people, I think that's a pretty universal experience, even if they don't move around. I'm sure there are exceptions, but most people aren't friends with the people they were friends with in, elementary school.
Yeah, my girlfriend.
She's in touch with all the everybody she grew up with.
Hanging out with them.
Is she from LA?
Yeah, she's from Glendale. Yeah, I still see her friends that she's had, and I'm over here like, damn, I don't have any friends from like that long ago. Jesus.
Obviously, it sounds like the move from Arizona to California was a culture shock, but what was it like going back to the Philippines?
The mega culture shock, because I feel like the kid I was when I left America, like, I guess I was a little bratty, and then when I moved to the Philippines, it was like, I was born in poverty, but I never thought I'd see it again. So I was like very like, I just felt like I was more privileged, because like I got educated. I went out here, I lived out here, and then I had to move back, and everything was so backwards. Like, and when you get older too, you start to question like why you're surrounded in poverty and what's wrong with the society. And so it was hard. Like, and there weren't opportunities for me there, as to like when I was living in America. I thought I could just work at Starbucks and McDonald's and I'd be happy with my life. But out there, like, I couldn't even work at McDonald's, because you have to like have a college educate or have to graduate high school. I didn't even graduate high school.
It's interesting to hear that you felt like, given the opportunity, that you could have been happy enough working at Starbucks or McDonald's, because it sounds like.
I mean, that's terrible, obviously, but I don't think at the time, like, I didn't really like have any, like, I didn't see myself as anything. I was just like, you know what, like, and I still am a regular person, but I was like, more so at that time, I was just like, what, 14? So I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna like graduate high school and work at Starbucks. Like, everything's gonna be great. Like, but no, Then I moved back to the Philippines. I was like, holy shit got real like quick. And I was like, what do I do? Like, because I did go to school there for a bit and that didn't work out. And then my parents like went through like really tough times. So I was just like, this music shit has to work, because that was the only thing I had going for me. I just had to make a commitment.
In the same way that kind of early failure can be motivating, having everything to lose also is, knowing that you've really, that essentially you have one opportunity and one thing to really do. I mean, that's a hugely motivating factor.
I thought I was going to grow up in America too. So I was like, damn, I'm really like set back right now. But it was low-key a blessing that like, I eventually took recording so seriously. Recording is really what, created every opportunity I have now. It's like, if I don't record, I feel like I'm losing at life. So yeah, now every day, I record, I film, any form of capturing, something. That's what I'm always trying to do now, and just keep doing it until I've done so many things.
There's a way in which you never really lose that initial motivating factor, that you still feel like you need to hold on to this, or you can, everything can kind of fall out beneath you.
And like, if I just stopped making music one day, it's just like, where would my money come from? Like, there's literally, that's all I live off of. And it's crazy. Like, I started with zero on the music end, and it's changing everything.
You had like a big moment in the last few years that it sounds like things really, really clicked. I mean, when something hits the way that song hit, how profound a difference does it have on you in your career?
It just makes me take it seriously. Like, I mean, I was taking it seriously, but now I'm like, holy shit! Like, it's a little more meaningful to me. Like, so I don't want to be so loose with my words. I really want to think about everything, because, a lot of kids and so many people have shown love to my music lately. And, I just want to keep making honest, just normal music. I mean, because I started out as like a noise avant-garde type guy, and then I remember my best friend started dating this like actress girl, and she was like, aren't you guys trying to make radio type songs? And not necessarily just, radio type, but just like something with structure, because we were like a noise band. So I was like, okay, like, let's try to make normal music. Doesn't necessarily have to be normal, but you know what I mean? Like, just with the structure that everyone has and can understand. I like deep shit too, like trippy music, but just my music's just always like simple song. Because also that's the stuff I listen to. Like, I'm a sucker for just a good song. Any style.
Why was her suggestion so motivating to you?
Because we were the opposite. Like, we were trying to be like super weird, and like, but that's alienating too. And then, you think you're like all cool and shit, but it's like, are you even making money off this shit? It's like, so it was a smack in the face, because I was surrounded by like people just like, she was an actress, like making money like off of just acting, and I'm like, damn, like how could I do that for music? And it made me like respect like big mainstream artists. I was like, they must have worked really hard to make a name. You know, it's like, and everyone has their own unique journey.
Is there a way in which it felt like doing something unstructured and potentially alienating was a bit of a like a cop out?
It just felt free. Like me and my band would jam for hours, and everything that we did in that time would sounded beautiful. But you know, like a normal person isn't gonna listen to a 1 hour jam. It's cool live or whatever, but you know, it's not gonna be a hit, like a hit record.
There's a certain point you get to where you're just like, I need to figure out what I could do to get more people to listen to what I'm doing.
Just how to fit being myself into that normal intro, chorus, verse. And you could, you know, inject so many different styles and into songs. It's like I used to think like songs in reverse were songs. And I used to like reverse just loops of like old songs, and I'd reverse that and I'd mix it up with another loop on virtual DJ, and I used to think that was a song. Sing over stuff like that, and I thought that was a song, but you know, a song could be anything really. But I did start out like doing just like the weirder shit so I could get it out the way and be like, okay, this is why this isn't on the radio.
Is it more challenging for you to operate in that more traditional structure?
No, it's simple. It's just like, but what I'm just trying to do is just find time in my life to like capture a mood and add lyric. The lyrics come like every now and then too. It's not like I'm lyriced up all day, you know, like I really just wait in my life. Like I go through stuff and then I'll write about it, but I can't just like sit there and write some lyrics about nothing. Like I could too, but usually like with my album, I like having songs that are like a diary.
It sounds like you're actively making a point to make music in some form or other basically every day.
Yeah, because also I'm getting better because like I recently like been trying to play keyboards more, so I bought a bunch of synths, and then you know I'm getting better. I'm not ever gonna be like a shredder, but you know, like I learn a new chord and I'm happy, and I put that in a song, and the audience gets to hear my progress as well. I'm sure one day I'll be playing this crazy chord, and the real guys that know how to play it and be like, oh shit, that's a hard chord to play. But I like, you know, I like the journey of figuring it out on my own. Like I have a book too with like all the chords, but it's not fun that way. I just want to like feel some way and then be like, how do I make that into a chord? And then you just add drums and blah, blah, blah on top.
Is learning to produce and record, is that a similar process?
Yeah, that, you know, that took me years. Started on like GarageBand and virtual DJ. And then I think when I got a Mac, that's when I got on Ableton. And then that kind of just opened the floodgates. Producing is fun. Like, you know, there's a side of me where I make my own music and I sing over it, and then there's that side of me where I just make music for my friends to add their vocals to.
You mentioned earlier that you're moving on from your label.
I'm gonna sign with a major label. It's been good. Like I went to London to like patch things up with the label I'm on that I'm leaving. You know, I made everything like cool. I was like, I just got to do this. Like, my parents are going to be so stoked.
Even at this point, you know, even with the success that you've had, that's still something that's top of mind.
Oh, yeah. Like, my parents, like, they get impressed by, like, accolades. And I'm just like, it's not what I do it for, but, okay. You know, I'm still the same guy who they didn't believe in.
It's still a little bit what you do it for. Again, if that's something that you're thinking of, and like obviously it sounds like it's important to you that you make them proud, like that's a bit of a motivator.
Definitely. Because like before all that, you know, it's just a constant I think I just upset them most of the time. So,
Do you feel like there was a point where, like, all of a sudden they recognized that this was that you were legitimately a musician?
only just recently, like the last few years, like, you know, I've had like billboards and song in the charts and shit like that. I never even thought of that stuff when I was making music. You know, I was just like, hopefully one day just make a good song, Jesus Christ. When it actually happens, I was like, you know, my mom was just like always sharing my stuff all of a sudden, like, congrats, son. I live for that stuff. It's nice.
It's hard for parent, like, especially the music business, like, given how much it's changed over the, like, in recent decades, it's hard for parents to really to contextualize what success means. I mean, it's hard enough for us to contextualize what success means.
Exactly. It's like, it's not, but you know, to them, that's like the world they want to believe. But I'm just like, these are just numbers, and yeah, everything's like about streams and views and all that stuff now. It's like, that never really meant anything back in the day. Like, I'm sure it did.
It's the same basic thing, but the metrics are different, right? I mean, it was sales before, and now it's streams. I mean, I guess there are ways in which it really hasn't changed. Just the method of delivery has.
Yeah,
we talked about what signing to a major label means to your parents, but what does it mean for you?
like, I'm just getting started.
What does that mean, though?
This is the tip of the iceberg. It feels good though, like, you know, me that all of this wasn't for anything, like for nothing, sorry. And you know, now I don't know, my manager's always like, you join the fucking NBA, bro. That's what everyone's making it out to be in my, you know, to me, but to me, I'm just still focused, like, gotta keep recording, gotta, you know, keep doing every other thing that isn't necessarily music to keep the music going too. Like, I have to film videos and do what I can to promote it and get people interested in creative ways. You know, those things are fun, and I'm just trying to stay on top of it and like get everything done.
You feel like there's a way in which, like, being a poor kid never really goes away. You know what I mean? Like, where it's like where you've seen like how rough life can be, and then obviously that's not something you ever want to go back to.
And you know, I have my own son now, so it's like, I just don't ever want him to like go through that, like, kind of like just all the situations I went through, like, really traumatizing. And figuring out my adult life was kind of like deconstructing my mind, like, and all the experiences I went through as a kid. And you know, things are okay now, so like, I'm just trying to keep working.
Was he born during the pandemic?
Right before my songs went viral too, like, so when he was born, there's like nothing going for me.
Yeah, that's terrifying, man.
Yeah, but I was like, I stuck to my plan. I remember when I moved to LA, all I ever did was like music moves, and just always trying to do, you know, anything related to it, my music. And yeah, it was at that time when my son was born, I was like literally doing something every other week, and I was like, when is this gonna pay off? And yeah, that's when it happened.
Sometimes it just doesn't pay off for people. All of a sudden you've got this kid, and it's like, well, you know, he's dependent on this being a success. There wasn't a point when you sort of maybe considered getting that job at Starbucks?
When I was, no, I mean, I was with my record label, so I was still like doing okay, you know, but like, yeah, you know, there were like a lot of thoughts in my head where I was like, I really should think of like a backup plan if like the music doesn't work out in this, like, the next few years.
It sounds like you still have a lot of other creative things you're doing, but at this point they're kind of, they're basically, you're basically doing them in support of the music.
Yeah, everything's rooted in my music.
Is there concern that once you move over to the major label, that once you're in the NBA, that maybe you won't be able to have as much control or to have your hand in everything the way you've been able to thus far?
No, I mean, according to my contracts. Yeah, but yeah, just I don't know. I don't really want to change anything up. If anything, like it's just gonna be. I don't know. Like I never have changed the way I've made my music. I've always made it by myself. They've already been saying like, yeah, we want you to like meet other producers, and I'm like, is that gonna fuck up the sauce? Or I'm open to trying it out for like a song or two. It's not like the whole freaking record has to be. But we'll see, man. Like, I'm also open minded. So it's like, because it's interesting for me, you know, I never like, because some musicians like do be having like other writers and they have that stuff in mind for when they're going to release things. But I've never really approached music that way. It's just always been whatever I'm going through and just trying to record a bunch of different styles that I like.
I think it could be a useful process for you, like, you know, seeing how it's done and, you know, and like going to film school for half a year, like figuring out which parts of it you want to keep and which parts of it you don't.
You know, I'm just, because I mean, I could just stay, you know, working with indie labels or I could be independent, but I like the experience of working with like other people. It just feels like, you know, it reaches more places that way.
One of the things that I admire that I wish that I had more of is, I don't know even know if confidence is the right word, but like not being afraid to put something out in the world, you know, that maybe you don't have a lot of experience in. You know, a lot of people will work on stuff for years and not release them because, you know, they don't feel like it's professional or whatever. But it sounds like you've always been excited to get your stuff out there regardless of how much knowledge you had.
Yeah, I think because like I started playing in bands and then like my music career is when I started discovering like production and yeah, because I could play live. It's just the thing with like producing is so like it's so many layers to it, like engineering and mixing, running things on tape, like but it's a process, you know. I'm learning everything backwards.
How so?
I just like kind of just fail first, then figure it out after.
I suck at music. Like I tried. It's not a skill that I have, but like, I don't feel like I'd ever have the confidence to do like a hip hop track or something. I would just feel like such an outsider, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I make rap stuff. I make everything. It's like, I grew up on everything. I just becomes so natural, you know?
I was reading an interview that you did, and I mean, it sounds like you had a sort of a more strict delineation when it came to genres. I guess really prior to this record and this one, it sounds like the walls kind of broke down in a way.
Yeah, because I always separated my records. I was always like, I'm gonna drop this rap record as a rap record, and then my rock record as a rock record. But I was like, doesn't everyone know that I do both of these things? Like, why don't I just put it out on one record? And it doesn't mean I'm making a rap rock album. It's just like I'm making a more mixed playlist of my own music.
You listened to Slipknot growing up. I mean, maybe rap rock, maybe it's due for a comeback.
And my next goal is me rapping over a punk song, but I don't know. That's a rap rock thing where it's like.
We're talking about two different things, right? We're talking about putting out a record with a lot of different styles on it versus consolidating them into a single song.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're more excited to kind of to cross those streams, to really kind of mix it up within the confines of a specific track.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always been shy about everything I do. So like this, like me revealing that I do all this in one record is very exciting for me. I've never just done it in one record.
It's funny to hear you say you're shy because, like, again, like, I don't know, to me, shy would imply that you don't want to share your stuff in the world. There are certain respects in which, like, you're very open and you're willing to put your stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the moment of, I just went through a moment of like, not a moment, fucking like month or two of just doubting this whole record. And then now that it's like done, I'm like, this is fucking sick. I was just going through it, you know. I don't know. I'm a normal person. Of course, you're gonna like feel uncertain for a second, but once I like finished it and ticked off every little checkbox in my head, I was like, okay, I actually did like, I worked really hard on this, so I'm not gonna beat myself up anymore.
That self-doubt is a normal part of the process for you?
Yeah, it comes with every album. It's like the final boss.
So the album's coming out. I think we're really kind of like just a few weeks from it now. What are you doing now? Are you, I mean, it sounds like you're shooting videos, you're working on music also. I mean, obviously the process of like, again, releasing something during a pandemic is a bit different than in normal years.
I'm working on just the music videos for this album, and then I'm working on the next album already because I have to drop a single in like October or something.
Oh, because you're moving over to labels, you're already talking about the next single after this one?
Gotta keep recording. That's
Does the next one feel different?
it's just like my growth. So it's like definitely different, but you know, just like improved. It's like it's like every album is the 2.0, the 3.0, the 4.0. It's like an iPhone. Not like, it's not like I'm gonna drop a fucking, I don't know, I just feel like I'm getting better slowly, and I'm just taking my time because I don't like, not like that old yet, so.